when your wounds overtake the level of your motivation, that's when you're going to quit.
Guys, going to be a fun today. I'm bringing in a buddy of mine, Murrell, and this dude's got a killer story. We're going to focus a lot on his journey, the things he's done, some really cool screw-ups he's had on that journey and figuring some things out. But as you guys know, I don't like reading through bios or anything. So, Derek, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. Welcome to the show. Tell us your journey, brother.
Donnie, man, thanks so much for having me on here. Yeah, so my name's Murrell. I am a full-time real estate investor entrepreneur out of Houston, Texas. So I became a full-time entrepreneur in September of 2014. So I'm still under 4 years into this thing. But what I do is I do real estate. I've kind of morphed, but more from different strategies. What I do today, 3 specific strategies in real estate: wholesaling, wholetailing, and then I do some owner financing and I hold notes. And I'm always raising capital from other investors or other people in my market. That's how I fund all my deals, is just regular people want some good returns on real estate in Texas with first lien positions on it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I came from a government job. That's what I left in 2014. I was a special agent with the U.S. State Department and the Diplomatic Security Service. Before that, I was in the Marines, and then kind of in between the Marines and in between the government, I did some school and got my MBA and did some other stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
No, I love it, dude. And I love bringing the veterans on the show. And I've got a ton of veterans on here, especially the jarheads, because you may all know they're the best.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So how the hell did the Marine Corps prepare you to be a real estate investor? Those two don't even mix.
So I got out of the Marine Corps in the early 2000s. So, I mean, I've been out of the military, out of the Marines for quite some time. And of course I started dabbling in real estate in 2013. But I'll tell you this. So when I joined the Marine Corps, I was 17 years old. I was young.
Wait, so that means you had your mom or dad sign for you?
Absolutely. And they were like, you are not going infantry. You're going to go in some job that you can actually get a job afterwards and all this stuff. Yeah. So when I went in the Marines, I mean, I was young. I graduated, of course, the Marines have 3-month recruit training. I graduated recruit training and I was still 17. So I was a kid. I was so young. And I got out when I was 22. And the thing was, those are the most informative years of my life. And so all the guys that were in the Marine Corps were always a little bit older and I looked up to them. But man, I learned so much just from talk about just a maturity level of gaining maturity. And that really pushed me towards so many things. And I didn't even know I was doing it, but looking back, I can definitely see those factors.
Nice. So you go from the Marine Corps, you pick up a government job. What were you doing in the government world?
So in the government world, I was in federal law enforcement. I was a special agent. I'll give you the down and dirty. It was the U.S. State Department, which is our foreign service, entity, our foreign affairs. So domestically, we would investigate criminal cases on visa and passport fraud. And then internationally, we were in charge of all of our security programs at our U.S. embassies and consulates. And then we would also domestically, we would protect foreign dignitaries. So when dignitaries would come in, we would actually have security details because as the host government, we got to protect whoever's coming to our country. So I've been on tons of details from Prince Harry to presidents of other countries to Israeli defense minister, the Dalai Lama and all this stuff. And then, of course, we also protect the Secretary of State. So at the time, it was Hillary Clinton. So I went on 3 different tours with her party and everything.
So I'm sure it was just like you see in the movies. It's all glamour and, the sunglasses and the cool music always playing in the background.
Yeah. I always say it's the perfect single person's job. I mean, period. And of course, I wasn't single. I was married. I had 2 little kids at the time. I have 3 kids now, but I mean, it was a massive strain on that piece of my life because I mean, I came to Houston. That's what brought me to Houston. I'm not from Houston. So I came to Houston in 2012. This was my first duty station, my first assignment, my first field office. And even in Houston, we were going down and doing operations on the border, the Texas-Mexico border at the ports of entry and stuff. And so we were always TDY. I think we calculated probably 60% of my time between going down 30-day stints on the border, 45-day stints there, and then you're traveling on these details, and then you're just traveling so much. And I mean, I went to China for 2 months on a TDY, and so next thing you know, it's just my life was in this. I had to really question, like, is this what I want to do for the next 20 years? Because, you know, I had to wrestle with those issues of where do I see myself? And those are some challenges.
Right. That's crazy. I mean, everybody goes through their journeys and, you know, they have the ups and downs. What were those key things that you were like, okay, this is not going to be a fit for me? Was it the time away from the family or what?
One of the reasons I picked Houston was people told me, yeah, Houston, if you go to Houston, you won't travel as much. And I'm like, okay. And I knew going into this job, every 2 or 3 years, you have to move and half of your career was going to be overseas. And I was cool with that. I knew that. When I got in the job, I started realizing that it's a massive difficulty for your family. And so I started thinking through the process. I was like, do I really want to have kids where I have to go overseas? And you never know where you're going to go because we have embassies and consulates in so many countries. So, you know, I go to West Africa, my kids are taking malaria pills. And I'm just like, I don't know. Some families can flourish in that, but my family, and I talked to my wife, I don't think we would have actually flourished in those environments to where we just travel and the kids have to go to the schools, and this can be a hard thing. And when I left, one of the reasons I jumped into real estate investing, and we can get into that, man.
Yeah,
I jumped in the deep end. But here's the deal. When I was, as a new agent, you're bidding a year before your tour ends, you start the bid sheets, right? You bid all this stuff. So of course I'm bidding, you know, Paris and Madrid, and they're like, nope. and you get a kickback at you, and then the sheet gets smaller and smaller. And really my only options, because of personnel issues and stuff, manpower was low. My only options were
personnel issues meaning you piss somebody off.
No. Yeah, I should clarify. No, just, you know, this is the government, man. You're always undermanned and all this stuff. So we had to have agents in all the hotbed countries. So really, I had 3 options. I can go to Iraq for a year. I can go to Afghanistan for a year, or I can go to DC and be part of our mobile security deployments, which in our agency, that was like our high-speed, low-drag guys. Right. And all they do is go to the Carjackistans and the Stinkistans and all this stuff. You know, so either way, I'm traveling way more than I need to. Obviously, Iraq, Afghanistan, that's unaccompanied, so my family stays here. And then after that, then I pick up some 3-year, 2-year tour, probably at some mid-tier, not the worst country, but you're not going to like Paris or anything. So, you know, and then I thought through that. So I was like, if I don't jump, I have about 5 years. I do this unaccompanied tour, and then I got maybe 3 or 4 years of this other stuff. So I won't be back into the U.S. to have opportunities to me for another 5 years. So I started thinking about that. I was mid-30s at the time. I'm 39 now. So those are the questions I started thinking about. Like, what do I really want in this thing called life?
Wow. I mean, what an experience to have to be put in a position where you're dealing with the family, trying to figure out with the kids, and what's that next move. I mean, we all get there to that spot, right, where it's what's best for me, what's best for my family, what do I want to be when I grow up, all those things. So how did real estate come about?
I always tell people I got into real estate because I lost my right kidney. And here's what I mean by that.
I guarantee I've never had anybody tell me they got in real estate because they lost. And I don't mean to laugh at you. But.
No, man. I mean, and then that's what it culminates to. So when I was applying for this government job, and these government jobs, a special agent, I mean, those are tough to get. I mean, it's very difficult interview process, very competitive because everyone wants it. You got all these guys coming out of the military. They want to be cops and stuff. So I applied for this special agent job back in, 2009. I made it through to the end and I got denied. So then it's like crap. And most people don't make it the first time around. So you had to wait a year. So I tried again. So that next time I try, I go through the process, these 4 stages. I get a contingent offer, which is the normal process, contingent on medical clearance and security clearance. Great. Hardest part's over. So I'm in the process. I get my medical clearance. I get my security clearance, and I'm cleared to go to the basic special agent course in maybe like 2 months from now, right? So you're just waiting now. Well, freak thing happens. I go to some wedding, and long story short, I'm out of state. Long story short, I had this pain in my side. Eventually, I had to go to the hospital. And basically the urologists and they're all like, your right kidney's mush. I mean, essentially. They thought maybe I never even had function in the kidney, but for whatever reason it ruptured. So that's what caused me pain to go to the hospital to check it out. So now they were like, we got to remove it. So I had my kidney removed, and I thought my agent job was done. I was like, surely the government's not going to let me do this with one kidney. I mean, I didn't know any better. So here I am in the hospital.
Just because of one kidney doesn't mean you can't function.
Oh, absolutely. But at the time, it was like, I can't have anything happen to my medical, you know, because now it's like you have this issue after you got cleared. Now it's like, oh my goodness. So I'm in the hospital recovering, and I kid you not, 3 a.m. there's an infomercial, and this guy's on the TV talking about, you know, real estate and tax liens and change your life, and can you change your destiny, all the goofy guru stuff, right?
Right.
Well, I'm sitting there, I'm on Dilaudid or whatever I'm taking, and pain medicine. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
So you're high as shit.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. Surely my government job's a no-go, so I got to think of something. So I get out of the hospital, go home, and I type in real estate investing. I had this link pop up, and it was this guy selling a course. He was from Florida, and I paid like $700, and I bought his little self-study home course. And that's what got me in to thinking about real estate. And then, of course, within the next couple months, I'm talking to the State Department, and they're like, yeah, you can come in with one kidney. You just got to get a clean bill of health, and you're good. So all that real estate stuff out of fear impregnated some thoughts in my mind. And then I got cleared to go to the special agent course. So then I get shipped off, 8 months of training or 7 months of training. And the real estate was put on the back burner until I got to Houston. And after several months, a year in, I was like, man, I'm traveling so much. Man, I don't know if this is a good fit for us. Then I was like, oh yeah, what about that real estate course, that real estate thing I bought a year and a half ago? And that's what I opened that back up. And I started dabbling with that a little bit. And then I bought into this guy's mentorship. And then that's how I really got started in this whole thing.
Nice. So that's a first, man. So a kidney leads to a real estate career. So guys, if you want to get started in real estate, don't
get rid of your kidney. Donate your kidney. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you buy a guy's course, and now you end up taking his coaching program. So first you go from this movie star, special agent, secret agent type thing to real estate multi-trillionaire at this point, right?
Yeah. At least on my dream board. And I was bivocational, meaning I was still working my agent job, and I was dabbling in the real estate, learning stuff. And while I was working in Houston, I was working on this side thing called real estate, and I was spending a ton of time, and it took me about 7 or 8 months until I got my first deal, which nothing sexy. I probably did maybe 3 or 4 deals while I was still in the government on the side. My first deal I closed from China because, I'm in this. Literally, man, like you can go to work on Monday and they're like, hey, Donnie, we need 3 volunteers to go on this trip leaving on Wednesday, and you're voluntold. So, you never had that. You always had that thing in the back of your head, like, man, if I'm working on a real estate deal, it takes some time, and you got to work on all this stuff. And the last thing you need is you're getting close to getting this deal under contract, and then you got to take off to Bolivia or something for a month. So that was the challenge. I had tons of hurdles and challenges just starting out, just getting to that place of even remotely trying to do anything.
Right. So how did you get the first deal in China? Did you literally just buy a house in China and flip it, or what happened?
Well, I got 2 deals under contract. So when I'm doing real estate, I'll go to a seller and I say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can pay $30K for your house. They agree. We do a contract, but I don't close for 30 days, let's say. And in that 30-day window, when I first started, this was my strategy. I never had to buy a house. All I had to do was control a house. So I would go, Mr. Seller, I'll pay $30K. He's like, cool. We sign a piece of paper today, and we're supposed to close in 30 days. So after I signed that piece of paper, I'm like, crap, now I got 30 days to do something. So then I called Donnie up. I'm like, hey, Donnie, you're a rehabber. You flip houses. Hey, I got this house over here for 40,000, man. I'll give it to you, and I'm going to assign it to you and all this stuff. You go look at the house. You're like, yeah, 40K is cool. But what I do is I assign my piece of paper to you, and I make a 10K spread.
Nice.
That's called wholesaling. So I never had to own anything. So I had 2 of those type deals under contract. I fly off to China for a 2-month TDY, and these are my first 2 real estate deals.
And just so people know, what's TDY?
Temporary duty assignment. Yeah,
Thank
temporary
you.
duty.
Got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So here I am in China, and this one deal was, I already found the investor, so it closed while I was in China. It's not like I had to do tons of work there. I just made some phone calls. However, deal number 2, that guy he was calling me irate. He was going to sue me. He was going to do all this stuff. He was threatening me because he found some of his pictures of his house on Craigslist, because sometimes we were marketing houses. Right, or marketing pictures, and somehow he found it, and he was livid. And all this stuff was going down. So these are my first 2 deals. I'm 13 hours ahead, so I'm dealing with all this crap, time zones. My first deal was okay. My second deal was like, this guy's I'm gonna find you and all this stuff. So those are my first 2 introductions to this.
Tell me he at least did it in the voice from the guy from Taken. I have a special set of skills, right? No, go ahead.
I will find you.
Right.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So that first deal I did, I think I might have netted, $4,500 or $5,000, which here's the thing that threw me for a loop. So working for the government, there'd be guys that would volunteer to go to the temporary duty assignments to say, go to Iraq for 90 days or 60 days. And why would they do that? They always did it for the money. Because no one really wants to go over there, but right. Everyone knows you get paid more, right? And you get all these benefits. So I would have guys risk their lives for 90 days to make an extra 3K, 4K, or whatever it was. Right. And then I'm like, well, wait a second. I just went down. Maybe I risked my life because it was a house in the hood. But realistically, I just made 4K, 5K on this little side gig, and I didn't have to go to Iraq or Afghanistan or have this crazy TDY.
I mean, you still had a potential of being shot at, but it wasn't as likely.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I started thinking that, and this whole process got me to the point where eventually my time was coming up in Houston, and I had to make a choice. I had to do that unaccompanied in Iraq or Afghanistan, or I had to do something. So the belief I came down to was simply this. Here's the deal. If I was to spend the best hours of my day doing these, even if I did these little deals, these 4,500 hits, right, or 5,000 hits, if I was to spend the best hours of my day, those 40 hours of my prime day focused on this little real estate thing where I did a couple side deals during my lunch break or at night or on the weekend or from China, then I'll be successful at this. I didn't need a ton of money. I just needed enough, right, just to get going. And so that started getting in my mind. My mentor, my first mentor, I bought his stuff, and he's the one that introduced me to this whole world of mindset. And I don't mean like mindset, like just, keep positive. I'm talking like deep stuff to where, principles of successful people. I mean, they think differently.
Right.
And it's not something that, they had to go through this process. They had to go through this retraining process. And so that's what introduced me to that. And it took me a couple of years for my mind to click. But eventually in September of 14, I jumped from the government job. My wife and I were both on board. We made the decision. My wife didn't have an income at the time. So I didn't have some attorney wife that was making 200K that could risk it all, but really you're not because your wife's making a killing. I didn't have that. So we left literally that mentorship I paid for, all this marketing I was putting on, some mistakes I made. I had over $50,000 in credit card debt. So here's the situation. I'm in Houston. We don't know a lot of people here. I'm not from here. No roots, no family. 2 kids at the time, like very young, less than 2 years old. I was up against the wall, so I had to make a decision. I was like, well, I'm not getting fired from the government, but I got to treat it like I'm getting fired because either I'm going shipping overseas or I'm not. And if I'm not, I can't stick around, right? So no wife, no spouse income. We had health insurance. So I would walk away from health insurance, walking away from the TSP, which is the government version of the 401k, walking away from that, walking away from a government vehicle, walking away from a steady paycheck. I mean, I wasn't making a ton of money, but it was pushing 100. Walking away from that, right? Walking away from some cushy stuff, walking away from all of that. And I had to jump literally in this real estate world, which had zero. No one was going to give me anything. I had zero guarantees. I tasted it. I knew it worked, but I was jumping in this world of this zero guarantees. We had 3 months of reserve, meaning if I did nothing, we could survive for about 3 months, maybe a hair more. And again, I had massive credit card debt. So like there was nothing in my situation that should have said, hey man, you should jump. This is a really good idea. You know what I mean? Like everyone thought I was crazy. The government folks thought I was nuts for leaving the government because it was a, quote unquote secure job. All this stuff.
How did that question go with your wife? You're sitting down, honey, we're $50,000 in debt, but I'm going to go ahead and put us in an even worse position. Don't know what's going to happen to the kids. I'm going to throw away health insurance, and I'm betting 100% in this real estate thing. How did that conversation go?
It was I'll tell you this. My wife has been supportive through this whole process. So she was, nothing we've done was like my thing, right? Now, it doesn't mean she's out there, buying houses and stuff, but she's definitely in the game and support. So I'll be honest. I mean, she's always been super supportive. So when we had those conversations, she was on board with it from the get-go. I mean, nice. Because here's the deal. If I leave to Iraq, guess what she's doing? Well, she's staying home with the 2 kids in Houston. Or what are we going to do? Move them somewhere else? And it's just all this, no matter what we do, there's massive stress. So even if I stayed with the government, there would have been massive stress, but it would have been a known variable, right? So sometimes I always tell people, sometimes it's good to go with a known variable because you know what you're dealing with. You got it in front of you. It sucks, but okay, at least we know what we're dealing with and we'll deal with it. Well, we were going to do the opposite. We were going to jump in an unknown variable. And because she supported the things we were doing, I mean, we weren't dumb about it. I mean, we believed we could be successful. We believed in the process. We believed that real estate was good. I was very tenacious. So a lot of that $50K, it wasn't, and I think I alluded to it, it wasn't that I was like buying couches and big screen TVs and just living a poor financial decision life. Well, when I did my first mentorship, that was, 10 or 15K, right? And then I did another mentorship before I left Houston, a coaching, because I found that I wanted a local coach here in Houston, and I spent a ton of money for that. So next thing you know, I'm 30, 40K just in education on my credit card. And then the rest of it, a lot of it was like to do marketing because they train you how to do marketing and all the stuff. So, those credit card debts the belief was this, and I'm not saying, and I'm not anyone listening to this, I'm not saying do what I do. It was and we can get more into the journey. It's been a very difficult journey. I was in such a regress standpoint where I had to smash through all this stuff to even break even to move forward. But the belief was this: if I'm in 50K of credit card debt, and I really believe that real estate was real, and I really believe I can do these deals, then what's to say I can't do $50,000 a month? I mean, think about that for a second, or even $20,000 a month, or even $15,000 a month. If you can do $20,000 a month or $30,000, it doesn't matter how much. That kind of takes care of all the other crap, right? Because successful people, wealthy people, they don't focus on their debts, right? So I wasn't like sitting around, even though I wanted to, because I'm reconditioning my mind during this process. So I wasn't sitting around like, oh my goodness, all day. I'm like, 50K, the bankers are going to get me and we're going to lose everything. And I wasn't sitting there thinking about that. I started transitioning. I started focusing my mind on, I need to make 50K. I need to make 20K a month. I need to make this. And then everything else falls into place.
Right.
As long as you're wise, right? So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I think, money's a huge thing not for everybody, but for a lot of people that are listening to this program,
right,
is one of the things that they're hung up on is their debt, the money they're trying to come up with. I'm betting that a lot of people listening to this thing are thinking, holy shit, $50,000, there's no way I'm overcoming that. So that takes a hell of a lot of tenacity and fortitude to be able to go through that. How long did it take you to pay off that $50K? Just curiosity's sake.
Well, it was probably the first 2 years I was pretty much paid off until I got my teeth kicked in. And then guess what? You're tapping that credit again, right? Because that's your lifeline, your reserve.
Yeah, but come on, man. Real estate's all sunshine and rainbows.
Oh man, it's fun. Lamborghinis and raining dollar bills and rap music, man. That's all it is.
So you can do the video where you go rent the Uber house and you rent the high end car and do the flashy videos, but
yep. yeah, absolutely.
So walk us through how you got your teeth kicked in, because people are really interested in that.
Well, it's funny, and I can piece that together towards it, but I figured out some major concepts to help me and to help others, and now I speak about it a little bit. So my teeth got kicked in because I positioned myself with a bad person or two. And what I mean by that is I was doing wholesaling, and I was getting out and I was doing a bunch of deals. I probably did like 56 deals of those wholesaling, that first thing where I'm assigning my contracts. And that's cool. Well, here's the deal. Back then I was still seeking approval from everything. So I still wanted to, and a lot of people feel this way, but at the end of the day, psychologically, a lot of us are doing stuff because we want to look good to other people, not to ourselves. And so I was seeking approval. And what I mean by that, in real estate, most people think of real estate investing. If you talk to the average Joe, they're going to talk HGTV, flipping a house, right? Flipping a house.
Right.
It's, you got to buy a house and you fix it up and you sell it and you make a bunch of money. That's what most people think. And that's what I thought. I thought that's what it was really at. I thought, man, yeah, this wholesaling thing, this contract assignment, that's kind of cool. That's kind of junior varsity, right? And then you go to the varsity game. That's where all the guys are and the ladies. That's where the real stuff is when you're flipping houses. So I crafted this great plan. I started raising money, and I was very familiar with this neighborhood on the south side of Houston. It was kind of the lower end market, but we were going to flip houses. And one of my friends at the time, I've known him for a couple years or more. He was more of the contractor skill set. So he was an investor, but he had the crews and all the stuff. And I was more of the, hey, I like to structure the deals and I like to raise the money. So we had this great plan. And we were going to both come together. We were going to buy these houses together, and he was going to take care of all that contractor stuff, which I hated. And I was going to take care of the private lender money to raise money for the deal and to structure the stuff that he hated. We were going to ride off into the sunset. Well, when we pulled that light switch, I bought 1 house, 2 house, 3 house, 4 house, pretty much bam, 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 bam. So we're filling this funnel. And the problem was this. I partnered with this guy. So he wasn't my business partner. It was just both of our LLCs bought these houses. So you're partnered with them on the houses. And I did everything right. These were good deals. I bought them cheap. I had good money. I had everything right. The loan to values were perfect. The deals were textbook. And this is what saved me, really. What happened was this guy. And so over the months, the weeks and the months, you're supposed to be getting these deals fixed up, and these deals were the contractors supposed to be doing work. So hey, what's going on with these houses? And I live 45 minutes from these houses, so I can't just swing by. And he lived actually in those areas, so it was easy for him. So weeks go by, and you get some, we got to get the permit, so we're delayed. Okay, cool. And then the weeks go by, the contractor can't get to this one because he's tied up. Okay, cool. And then now we're talking a couple months, and things are delayed. And then slowly there were some signs of, he started saying, the contractor ran off with some money, which does happen. But I'm like, okay, what do you mean? And it happened on multiple of my houses. I'm like, okay, well, no. It might happen once, but it doesn't happen twice, right? Because we're smart and we're business guys and we fix problems. Well, what happened was he started blaming this contractor for stuff. And I told the guy, I'm like, all right, well, let's go after the contractor. Show me bank stubs. Show me your check stubs. How did you pay him? Oh, well, I paid him cash. And I'm like, well, why? So now you're paying him cash. You're telling me he ran off and you can't prove that you paid him. So now I'm questioning you. I tracked down this contractor. And of course, he had a totally different story of the situation, right? He said the guy I was working with was stiffing him on money. So he basically left. Long story short, all 4 of these deals were delayed. Money was getting taken. These draw requests were coming from my lenders. So my lenders would pay, $8,000 for the next piece of the project. Well, this partner was taking that money. I don't know what he was doing with it. And so long story short, next thing I know, I am like deep into the weeds on this thing. I got multiple deals. I got my reputation on the line. I got lenders that I'm paying. I'm paying the cash flow. So every month you got to pay a few $100, whatever it is that I owe him. I'm paying that out of pocket while this clown over here is taking this money and doing something else with it. So, and we both own the house. So we both, which I shouldn't have done it that way. We both bought this house. So I can't just say, you're out of here, you're fired, because he's part owner. And so I had this crazy, crazy issue with this stuff. And now I'm bleeding money. Now I'm tapping into reserves, because the cardinal rule is with these deals is the lender always gets paid first, and we protect our lenders, which they're always protected in the deal legally, and they have collateral and all this stuff. But you never want your name to be tarnished. Donnie, if you're lending me money, I don't want that call where, hey, Derek, I noticed you never made a payment. Like, you don't want that call, because I'm building relationships. I want you to keep coming back and all this stuff. So next thing you know, I'm talking bleeding money. Finally, through different ways, we got him to deed me the interest of these properties, and he walked away. But the damage was done. So I might be $20K under on a property that's not fixed up, that's still studded out, meaning there's no walls, and all this money was supposed to be put in the property. Well, that money's gone. This guy deeded me the house, so now it's my problem 100%, which I was okay with, because now it's my variable that I know what the variable is. Now I could fix it. So then I had to tap into reserves, because now I still got to fix these houses. And my lenders already gave us the construction draws, or most of it. So now I had to come out of pocket to fix the stuff that should have already been fixed. And now we're not talking one house. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 houses at once. And then, long story short, this other investor, he was doing some shady stuff on other stuff, and he's an absolute train wreck. But for me, from my perspective, I'm 2 years into this entrepreneurship. I have all those risks. I have all those risks that I had when I jumped out, where my spouse doesn't have she still doesn't have an income, which is fine. But I mean, at the time, we have 3 kids now. And when this 2-year mark hit, I had all this stuff coming down. We had our 3rd child. We were in the hospital for 21 days. My wife was. Her water broke early, and the doctors made her do the bedridden thing. So we're at the hospital for 21 days. I have my whole world caving in on me. I have all this stuff happening. And then the other element no one told me was like, hey, Derek, that sucks, but guess what? You still have to hunt, man. Because you know what? You still got to go get the food. You still got to go kill the deer and bring the bounty back to the family so we can eat. And when you're going through that world of turmoil and despair, the last thing you want to do is go over here and be like, okay, now I'm going to call some sellers and take down some houses, because, man, I don't know if anyone's a lot of people have been in financial stress. That's a bad place to be. When you're going through that, that's a tough place, and all the stresses. So, I mean, that's the start of it. But at the end, I stopped counting at about 70K. Of loss. Stopped counting there. This was a year and a half of hell. Because you're in you own real estate. It's not something you just, pull the ejection cord and you're out. You're in the deal until it gets solved. So I was refining lenders into other lenders. And fortunately, going back to my first statement, is I bought these properties by the book, and I bought them right. And that's what saved my butt. Because if I bought these houses any higher, that would have been less spread, and that would have destroyed me when I tried to sell these things. So fortunately, we got through it. Fortunately, I became way smarter, way savvier, wiser. Obviously, my biggest issue was, at the end of the day, I take the responsibility, because I signed with this guy. I signed with him. We got married. And I learned what not to do when you get married. You got to have, divorce agreement, right? With your partners, buy-sell agreements. I learned so many lessons from that. And now, not only just the tactical lessons of the real estate deals I got better at, but I got better up here, because now I got my freaking teeth kicked in. And that's when I created some things about the second explosion and hunting while you're wounded and all this stuff.
So it's a huge point, because one, kudos for having the tenacity to flat out go through something like that. And I think that's where most people throw in the towel, is when they get stacked up against it. The world's freaking crushing in around them. They start looking at doom and gloom versus where they're going. What was it for you that said, I got this? Because I know in the moment there was probably times where you're sitting there going, shit, how the hell am I going to handle this? Right? How am I going to make this work? What happened to you that said, I got this, I can handle it?
Donnie, I mean, a couple things. One is I literally burned my boats, man. Like I didn't have, my only backup would be to go back to the, go back to the government or something like that. But I mean, I burned my boats. The other thing is my family, of course, my kids, and everyone talks about a why. And the reason we have whys in our life is to give that motivation where you go into a bad time and you look at a picture of your kids and you're like, okay, I'm going to fight for them. And I always believe that I'd be successful at this because all it is, it takes one day. It takes one more action. It takes one more step. It takes one more phone call where you get something on the phone with the seller. You get on their house, you get a contract, and you make $30,000. That's as easy as this is. All that other crap is our minds telling us stuff. It's our self-talk. And if I didn't have a foundation during this time of the mindset and how it works and how to do declarations, I mean, I'm very regimented and have a routine, and I invest massive amounts of time into my personal development.
Dude, and that's so awesome. What I want people to understand is you have to go through the shit to figure out who you need to become on the back end. Without those experiences, you wouldn't see the successes you're seeing currently in your business, your investments, and the whole 9 yards. Talk to me a little bit about this whole idea of the second explosion, because this is huge.
Yeah, so the second explosion, the first explosion is when we all jump out and we're tenacious and we got all this, we're going to do everything we can do and we're going to go out there. Everyone has that first explosion, the honeymoon phase. The second explosion is when you start getting wounded. And for me, I was tenacious for 2 years, but eventually I started getting wounded. I don't care how much of a warrior you are. All that means is you might get wounded to a point later. So you start retracting, your life starts caving in. So that second explosion is right before, and you made it the point, Donnie. I mean, you're going to quit. When your wounds overtake the level of your motivation, that's when you quit. And so that second explosion is something.
Say that again, because I want that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. When your wounds overtake the level of your motivation, that's when you're going to quit.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that's what you're going to be faced with. And that second explosion is somewhere in that process when your life's caving in, you're going to have to explode, and it's going to be miserable. And I'm talking twice as much, twice as hard. And that second explosion, if you can get that concept down where you have to explode, that's the most crucial point of your life as an entrepreneur. And the thing is, it's not about quitting. And I always say this, it's about adjusting. So I had to adjust. I had to adjust aim. I changed everything in my business model. I did. And it's from this. It's from learning. And you're absolutely right, man. You talk to anyone successful that's been successful for a sustained amount of years, man, they're going to have this. They're going to have a story of this happened early on, those horror days.
Well, and I think it's really important to hear, and I say this in quite a few episodes because I want to really hit home. You never fail. You quit. Mm-hmm. Right? If you never throw in the towel, you don't actually ever fail. You're learning something along the way. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like you failed at something, it's only because you quit trying to learn through it. I mean, you could have thrown in the towel at any point. I mean, it'd cost you a lot more than you got out of it, right? But you never gave in. You never threw in the towel. I mean, that's just huge. So I know you're doing some public speaking and stuff, and you're talking to audiences. You've done a couple of gigs I know about. What's next for you on the horizon? Are you going to continue doing the speaking? Where are you going with all this?
One thing that's important to me is that I want to live what I speak and I want to live what I preach. And I want to make sure that if I'm teaching principles or I'm speaking, I'm like, this is original to me. I'm not saying I'm the original author of these concepts. I'm saying this is my twist on it, but I'm greatly influenced by other self-help people and everything like that. But where am I going? I'm still an entrepreneur, so I still have my business. I still have all the stresses and the issues that anyone else has. So I'm building my team. I'm automating stuff. So I'm trying to fire myself from a lot of the main stuff. I'm building my portfolio, big on time, freedom, and impact. So I'm building net income, so passive income. But I do love the impact piece of my 3 pillars is that I love speaking. I love helping. And I don't know where that's going to be. I mean, it's right now I'm taking speaking gigs. I love hopping in podcasts like this. And I love being able to impact. And if my story, maybe the way I describe it just resonates with somebody, man, if that something clicks for one person, they can change everything because everything's framework. And when we change our framework of stuff, one little piece can change the trajectory and it changes everything.
Beautiful, brother. Man, I totally appreciate you being on the show. This is one hell of a journey. I love it, people that can share their genuine story and get a little bit raw about their experiences. So thank you so much for this. And I love to ask this at the end of every show. If you could give somebody a thought, a phrase, something they could carry with them as they continue on their journey, is that impactful thing, what would that be, that thing you would tell them that they continue on and carry with them?
I would say everyone needs to answer these 3 simple questions. Know where you're going, and that could be your big goals. Just know what you want in life. I got to know what Derek wants, and Donnie's got to know what Donnie wants, and this can be different because we're different. We're wired differently. We have different desires. So the first question, know where you're going. The second question is know who you are, know your circumstances, and knowing that's going to filter advice you get, because not all the advice you get you should take. You should probably take a little bit of advice because it doesn't fit your situation. And the third question is ask yourself, what cost am I willing to pay to get to my goals? Because this can be hard, and there's going to be a wilderness period, and it's going to be tough. What cost are you willing to pay? And then simply say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, because those goals should be massive value in your life, whether it's freedom, whether it's for your family, whether it's for legacy. It shouldn't just be money. It should be something big. So if you can answer those 3 questions, man, that could change everything in your life.
Dude, that's awesome. Derek, thanks so much for being on the show, brother. I really appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was just an awesome episode. What a freaking journey. Man, when you hear stuff like that, you just get goosebumps on the ride. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this episode. Please do me a favor, comment on it. Let this person know how much you value their story, their information. Please share this with your friends. It would mean everything to me.